Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me here.
Long time no see. I know I haven't
I
seen
know.
you ever. We saw each other last year.
Yeah, it was around this time, I think.
All right, so let's introduce yourself a little bit to our Shaw family, our audience.
Okay, well, my name is Sarah Cooper. I am a classically trained soprano. Lydia and I actually know each other from Westminster Choir College. We both did our masters there and we were in the same studio.
Yes.
Shout out to Sharon Sweet. um, and yes, I come from a very musical background. My family's musical. I live in a biracial household, so my mom is Black and my dad is white. And yeah, I'm happy to bring my perspective to this, beautiful fabric of storytelling that we're hearing now in this Black History Month.
Oh, thank you for introducing yourself. So tell us a little bit about your first musical experience as um, African American musician. What is your first musical experience?
Well, my musical experience started at a very young age because my mom was a piano teacher and she ran a studio out of our house. And my grandmother, her mother, was a classically trained soprano. And she would look after me and my brother a lot when we were growing up. So I would hear her vocalizing in the music room, quite often. So I was exposed to music and to classical music in particular at a very young age. Um, and I mean, I would even say that it started before that because they say you can start hearing when you're 7 months old in the womb. So I think that my musical exposure even started then.
Wow, wow, sounds like fun. So you were growing. This is new to me because I know that your mom was a piano teacher, but I
Mhm.
know your grandmom is also a musician as well.
Yes. She was a classically trained soprano. She won the Marian Anderson voice competition, I think, when she was 17, and she got a full scholarship to Juilliard, actually.
Oh, wow, that's so good to know.
Yeah, I'm still so, it's a story that I love to tell. I'm so proud of her for to that. Yeah.
So we're going to go to our next question,
Okay.
which is how did you get into the instruments you are playing now? Because I know that voice is also counted as instrument, but most people don't know that. And I just found out earlier, before we meet for this interview, you also play cello. That is something new to me. So tell us what how did you
Yes. Well, so I got started on piano at a very young age. My mom sat me down, I think, when I was about 4 years old, and then I started cello 2 years later. And I played piano and cello all the way through high school. Right around college is when I kind of, started to taper off with that. I started voice actually quite a bit later. I didn't start voice until about halfway through college. So I was about 20 years old. And it was because somebody, and rightly so, told us, don't start voice lessons too early because you can ruin your voice.
that is
And
very fun.
so, yeah,
Young singer out there, hope you hear that.
yeah, it's true. I think that was the best advice anyone could have given me because I kept putting it off and putting it off. And then finally, when I got to college, I was singing in the choir and we were given a subsidy for voice lessons. So I thought, well, this is the perfect time to start. And I loved it. I loved it. And I haven't looked back basically since then.
So tell us a little bit about you recently. Um, oh, I just sort of remember that your brother is also playing violin, right?
Yeah, that's right. So he started violin also at a very young age. I think he was, around 4, 5, 6. Unlike me, he decided to pursue violin in college. So He went to Oberlin Conservatory where he double majored in violin and viola performance. And right now he is finishing up his master's at NEC in violin performance.
Oh, wow. Is there a different technique between violin and viola, or they're sort of the same?
Um, they're different, but it's, given the similarity of the instruments, a lot of violinists play viola, and vice versa. It's, the viola actually has the same strings as the cello, but it's, in terms of technique, it's a lot closer to the violin.
Well, is there any instrument that your family are not playing? Because I know you grew up in this musician family, but
Yeah.
type of music instrument, that's just very, very impressive.
Oh, well, thank you. No, I feel very fortunate to have grown up with such, musical influences around me. But my dad, I will say, he does not have any musical training. I think he'd be a great musician if he wanted to become a musician, because every time I hear him whistle something or hum something, it's always perfectly in tune.
Yeah.
And he's very smart, but he just didn't decide to go in that direction.
Well, hopefully, as sometimes like he can pick up a brass instrument, and you guys will have a full orchestra or
Right.
right? All right, we're gonna move on to our next question, which is you recently see, hear, and read. So what you been um, watching, and what you been hearing,
Mhm.
what you been reading?
Yeah, well, as far as reading goes, I would say I try to start every morning reading some scripture from the Bible. It just helps me set the tone for the day. As far as novels, I just finished a mystery novel called Falling in Love by Donna Leon, and it's about an opera singer singing in Venice, and she has a stalker, and she doesn't know who the stalker is. It's an anonymous person, and the novel is basically about how this person reveals him or herself, and how she finds out who they are.
Yeah, sounds interesting. I have to check it out.
Yeah, I recommend it.
How about what have you been listening? I'm curious.
So listening to, I have been listening to a lot of Lucia lately because I'm in the process of learning the role. And yesterday, actually, they were playing Maria Callas's performance from the Met from 1956. And I mean, Callas is probably my favorite performer, one of them, if not my favorite. Yeah. So I've been playing the Mad Scene over and over again, just trying to get
Have you
into
been out
it.
that area?
I'm working on it now. Yeah.
Can you give us a couple sentence?
I wasn't expecting to do that.
Okay, so we can always see you in the mini recital, right?
Yes, yes. I'll give you a preview in the mini recital.
Perfect. All right. So, what about recently? See, have you been watching any videos or operas or
Mhm.
anything like?
Yeah. Let me think. I think what I most recently saw was actually one of those Hallmark mystery novels, or not mystery novels, mystery specials. Now I'm noticing a theme here with all the mystery, but I think this was a story about a really rare chef's book that had
That's book.
yeah, a chef, like almost like a cookbook, but I guess it's different than a chef's book somehow. And it had like poisonous recipes in it, and it was this auction item that
Recipe.
yeah, it's
All right. Well, so good to know. So we're going to move on to our last question. So growing up biracial,
Mhm.
so you have experienced most of music, uh, like with all the black musicians, right? So you
Mhm.
mentioned um, Leona Price, all this black opera singers. So what is Black History Month? I know this month is Black History Month, mean
Mhm,
to African American musicians,
mhm.
and how pandemic is changing the music industry for African American musicians.
Well, I think that the pandemic right now is affecting Black musicians kind of in the same way that's affecting all musicians. I mean, we're all struggling right now. You know, performances have been canceled or postponed, although, you know, we're having our hopes up for the rest of the year. We'll see. Um, but yeah, I would say though that this year's Black History Month has kind of taken on a little bit of a different meaning, not necessarily because of the pandemic, but more just because of the events that have transpired, you know, through the past 12 months. Um, and I would say that this change that's been happening has been positive. Like for example, I grew up in a very musical family, as we've been talking about, and classical music was very normal for me to listen to growing up. I would hear names like Kathleen Battle, Leontine Price, Marian Anderson, and when I would leave my home and go out into the real world, people would sometimes say to me, knowing a little bit about my background, you're the whitest Black person I know. And, I thought that was just very misinformed, just because the musical heritage of my family has mostly come down through my mom's side, through the Black side. Um, so, and then when I would go talk to my African American friends and I would mention names like household names that I thought they were household names, like Leontine Price, Jesse Norman, they didn't know who these people were, most of them. So um, I I think it's really good right now that just a lot of these stories, these different stories are being told, and people are listening, I think, with more openness than they have in the past. So right now, I'd say it's becoming more normal for Black people to be opera singers, or it's less of an irregularity when you find out that someone's Black and they sing opera. Um, so I'm grateful for that change, and I'm looking forward to seeing what other positive changes come of all of these tragic events that have taken place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm also optimistic that the future is really bright because I know that in my class, we're really exploring different type of diverse music history or music repertoire that we have never been explored before. And I do hope the real world are, more appreciative about um, Black musicians or even like more diverse,
Yeah.
diverse music culture out there.
Yeah, I'm hopeful for that as well. Just representation from all backgrounds. Absolutely.
Well, it's so good to talk to you today, and so good to see you. Uh,
Good to see you too.
do you have any next performance coming up?
Well, I have some virtual things. One is actually another Black History Month event. It, I think it'll be airing in a couple of weeks online, and I'll be posting the information on my website about that. And I mean, I have some things that hopefully will be able to happen in the fall. We're hoping, for audiences to return to their seats, but we'll just have to wait and see.
All right. Well, good
Yeah.
luck to you, and I'm looking forward to the mini recital in next week, and also your Instagram takeover for Capitol Hill Arts Workshop.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.